Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abby, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I'm your host. My name is Abby. Welcome back. I hope you guys had a great week. I've missed the podcast. I've missed being here. I have had a little bit of a emotional week. I've been really up and down with my emotions, and it's been good though because I've been a little bit numb and I feel something. I finally feel something. No, but seriously, I do actually have more feeling to life now. Like the grass looks green, actually. The water looks blue. The sky looks blue. And I give credit to the fact that I have been on Saturdays, that I have been running on Saturdays and jumping in the ocean after my runs. And that has been, it's such a small thing, but it has actually changed everything for me. I've been running like during the week and I still have my routine. I've been really consistent with the running and the lifting weights and everything a couple times a week. But then on Saturdays, like that routine of running a couple miles and then jumping into the ocean and feeling so proud of myself, because I'm not I've never been a runner. That's not something that I'm like, oh, I feel like a runner. I feel uncoordinated. I feel heavy when I run. I feel cramps 24/7 when I run. I feel, just uncoordinated. I feel like I shouldn't be running is how, like, what the mental aspect, that's the mental piece that comes in when I'm running is just like, you're not coordinated. You shouldn't be running. You're not even running right. What's the point? But I run very slow because I'm trying to actually just work my way up. And that can be boring. And sometimes when I'm bored, that's when my mind just goes even crazier and gets worse. And so on these runs, I kind of work through all the stuff while I'm running. And then after, my body is dead and my hips feel like so sore and achy already. My hips feel tight. My pelvic floor feels tight. And then I run and I take it all off. No, I'm not skinny dipping, but it just like I strip down, I run into the water and I just jump fully in and it feels so good and it's cold, but it's the perfect amount of cold. And there's all these surfers everywhere because of where I live. It's just a big surfing place. And I always feel a little bit insecure wanting to get in the water while they're surfing, but I'm not getting in their way. They're like 500 feet away from me. But I refuse to ever let that stop me. They don't own the ocean. It's not the flag. The flag's not up that says no swimmers or only surfers or whatever it is that means. So it's fully people can swim. And so I just run in there, do like a little half cold plunge because it's not freezing. And then I'm like set for the rest of the week. And by the time I need a reset, it's Saturday and Sunday again, and I have that time to reset. It's almost like people knew what they were doing when they gave you the weekend. So it's been nice. I really like it. I'm going to continue to do it. But I don't like running during or before. I've never been excited to go running, but I'm excited to go do something that I don't want to do because it makes me feel better. But it's been really helping with depression and with those depressive kind of little episodes that I have. I just go force myself to do something like that and it doesn't fix me. I still have those heavy feelings. I still have like some lingering heaviness, but I'm able to open up and feel them, and then it just puts me back into like a regular state of being and feeling things and living. We're going to skip dubs and L's today just because I couldn't really think of anything specific. So we're going to jump into the meat of today's episode, which I haven't said yet, so I apologize. We're talking about checking in with yourself and support groups. The first part of the episode, I actually wanted to read like a note to myself it was kind of just, it's not a poem, by the way. It's not a poem. I'm not a poet. I just wrote like a note to myself or a note to people like myself, but it was mostly towards myself. I wrote like a letter to myself or a note to myself, and it's not super specific to me. I think it's just to the way that my brain works and to some of my experiences in life, and it's just about checking in with yourself and your thoughts and being honest about what your experience is internally. So I'm just going to read it. So it's about checking in. It's not a poet. I feel embarrassed, you guys. I feel embarrassed. I don't know why this feels vulnerable. I just typed it up. I talk about stuff all the time. Why do I hate this so much? Okay. I'm going to keep saying okay until it feels right, and then I'll continue to read it. When I say okay, and then it's like I'm locked in and it emotionally feels just right. I'm joking. Don't do that. Okay. How did you experience today? How is your mental health today? Are you feeling numb, happy, peaceful, maybe sad, heavy, overwhelmed? Have you been going through those frustrating mental hoops all day? The ones where the mean mind promises that if you just ruminate one more time, or if you just search one more forum or scroll to one more video, then that satisfaction and safety that you are looking for will finally happen? Do you feel like the more you try to fix what you believe is broken, the more broken it gets? If so, remember, if you can, for a brief second, the life that you've experienced before outside of these anxieties. Remember, or if you have no memory of relief because maybe it's been so long or you genuinely don't remember the last time you ever enjoyed or felt happy, then dream of what that life would be like. And don't be scared to dream too big and hope too high, for the creator of the universe gave you that capacity for a reason, and you do not need to fear it. So don't be scared. Don't be scared to hope. Don't be scared to dream. Don't be scared to expand your heart. You are allowed to dream. You are allowed to believe. And it would be so much worse to never let your heart hope or dream. Keep fighting. In case you need a reminder, it is worth it. In the middle of the battles, the fight may not feel worth it. When you don't remember what life could be like, the fight sometimes does not feel worth it. So again, in case you need a reminder, it is worth it. Even if you don't feel it is worth it, it is worth it. And you might not ever feel that until you get to the other side. But then how beautiful it will be when you finally get there, because then you have proof that when you hit rock bottom and even below rock bottom, that you can come back and that you have people and a creator that will buoy you back up. So then you do not need to fear about falling again. And I think that is an important part of any type of recovery, is knowing that you're not just one tiny step away from ruining everything that you've ever worked for. That is my little letter about checking in with yourself. Checking in with yourself is one of the most important things that you could do every single day, because when we actually take time to check in with, okay, am I prioritizing the things that I really want to prioritize? Or am I just kind of going through the motions and I'm not really experiencing anything? I'm not really acting how I want to act. A good example, if you're somebody that's married or if you just live with someone, I think that's a great place to start with how you are doing with prioritizing treating people the way that you want to and showing up in relationships the way that you want to show up, because sometimes, and we all do this, we can get caught up in just going through the motions. And sometimes even we see videos online or we hear, I don't know, just people talk about negative things about relationships, or, you know, we watch reality TV or something and then you see people hating on someone because they said something bad or something and it was a bad way to act, a bad behavior. And then they talk about red flags and I don't know, stuff like that. And sometimes that can seep into our subconscious. And well, I don't know, that sounds like so intense, but sometimes those things just start to stir things up in us and our mind starts to panic. Like if you are more anxious, your mind can start to panic. Like, okay, what if, well, my partner kind of did something similar. Like, does that mean that I have to leave him? Does that mean that he's bad for me? Does that mean like we're in a toxic relationship? All of these different worries. And it could be something totally different, but basically, if we have these lingering beliefs or these thoughts that are floating around that we're not really checking in with and squashing, if they need to be squashed or really considering if they really need to be considered, then they kind of subconsciously control your actions and how you treat your partner or how you treat your loved ones or how you treat random people on the road. So that's mostly what I mean by checking in with how you're doing and what's happening up here, what's happening in here. Are these feelings, are these thoughts helping me? If not, let's figure out like how I can work through these, feel them, so that way I can actually start behaving how I want to behave and be more conscious and aware of what's happening. So that's my 2 cents on checking in. The second thing I wanted to talk about today was support groups. When I started to attend support groups for my OCD, I remember being so humbled because I never thought, I don't know why, I just never thought that I would need to go to a support group for something, mostly because I was scared of doing anything. And so I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to get addicted to anything because I am too scared to touch anything or do anything. So being so young, I had no idea that there was like support groups for a billion different things. Thankfully, there are. And OCD was something that I really needed to know that other people were experiencing because I felt so crazy. And it's something that's so hard to explain to somebody who doesn't have it. Because when you try to explain it, they're like, well, obviously you're not A, B, or C. Or they're like, can't you just like not worry about it or not think about it? And obviously that's the point, that we're trying to get to that spot. But it's so condescending almost and invalidating, and very invalidating when people have that, response to something that you're really struggling with. And so after not being understood for so long, I really started to fall in love with going to support groups because I finally felt understood. Like therapy, my therapist made me feel understood on like a clinical level, but support groups made me feel understood in a completely new way. And at first I was nervous. Like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know like who I was going to see. Like what if I saw someone I knew or something on support group on the online or something. So it's a very vulnerable thing to do for somebody, especially when they're more, I guess, introverted, or when they're like me and they can just like, then they sometimes tend to just be to themselves too much, a lot. But the first couple of times I went, I like didn't say anything. And anytime I had to talk, I hated it and I hated talking. But eventually I found it to be such a healing space to where I didn't feel judged. Like I finally felt like I could just talk about my experience and no one was going to call me lazy. No one was going to call me crazy. No one was going to call me dramatic, a baby, too sensitive, too emotional, any like label, that just like went out the window. And it also really helped in my recovery because I would see all sorts of people in all different areas of recovery, or stages, I guess, of recovery. So I'd see people that had been going for like 10 years or had been doing recovery for 10 years, and some people would be 6 months. And it really taught me that OCD is so all over the place, even though it's the same disorder. Like it's the same disorder and you can treat it the same, but just the nuances, and it varies with intensity. I feel like if you are more sensitive, I've noticed that with more sensitive people, it does get more intense, I guess, or it can lead to like, I just feel like that it's maybe experienced more intensely and it's harder to fake or just have high functioning, I guess, OCD, because it's incredibly debilitating. And that's not to say that one is harder than the other. It's just, I've just noted, I don't know. I just learned a lot of different things about OCD and how it shows up for people, and how it doesn't matter your background, your identity, your gender, your ethnicity. It doesn't age. It does not discriminate. It can cling to anyone, and it can show up in anyone at any point in their life. I think the OCD community is such a tight community because the disorder is so traumatizing sometimes and is so exhausting and so specific and so painful. That community is so supportive, and I've never experienced that before with anything else. Like that community is the most non-judgmental, most kind community I've ever been a part of. And sure, not everybody is super non-judgmental, but I think there's just such a joint understanding of the pain of the disorder and the courage and the strength it takes to recover from it. And so there's almost like an inherent respect that you have for other people that show up to those groups, and you just know what they're dealing with. And so you know how strong they are. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. I have a Discord chat that is on Discord, obviously. And I sometimes post, but I haven't posted in a long time. But there's a lot of people on there, and it's like kind of like an OCD, anxiety, mental health group. And we don't have it's not an actual support group, so it's not ran by a therapist or anything. It's kind of just their friendly vibes. But that's something that if I had more spare time, I would make time to have that be something that's more of a supportive, creative, fun space for people to not feel judged. I think for anything that you really need help with and that you have, it's a weakness or it can be a weakness, I think support groups are super helpful, and it helps you stay stay close to society and gives you a sense of belonging somewhere. So I always recommend them with whatever you're dealing with. They have, depression and OCD. They have just depression. They have OCD. They have anxiety. There are eating disorder groups. There's a lot of different things. There's so many beautiful communities out there online. That's like the beauty of the internet, is that you can actually find people that you can connect with. I really only know how to access OCD support groups, and that's through IOCD, IOCDF, I think, and NoCD. So NoCD has a lot of support groups. Sometimes they get canceled, sometimes they get canceled a lot, but they do have a lot of different types of support groups, and they're really specific, and it's really helpful. I don't know if you need to be doing therapy in order to go to support groups. You might need to be, or like a current patient or something, but I think it's just always good practice to share and be vulnerable and to practice a little bit of trust with other people in a safe space. Okay. Well, that is it for today's episode. I know it was kind of all over the place, so thank you guys for bearing with me anytime I go all over the place all the time. We're going to do a Dear Abby, and then we will end today's episode. Okay, this is more of a time-sensitive one. So I'm skipping some, and I'll come back to it that were sent previous, but I just read this one earlier this week, and I wanted to make sure I answered it soonish. And it says, it's a text messages. It's text messages. Duh. It's a text message, and it says, Dear Abby, by the time you read this, I'll either be on the trip or close to finishing it. I have a complicated relationship with my in-laws. While we all generally get along, my mother-in-law's personality can be deeply triggering for me. Years ago, I was in an emotionally abusive relationship with someone who used similar manipulation tactics, and being around her brings up these old wounds. About 10 months ago, when I was in a different headspace, we planned an extended family trip. As the date got closer, I started feeling increasingly overwhelmed. My OCD has been flaring up, and I've been caught in cycles of rumination and anxiety. I found myself wanting to cancel the trip completely, but my kids are old enough to know what's happening and have been looking forward to it for months. Unfortunately, my older child overheard me telling my husband that I didn't want to go, and that maybe he should go without me. That led to a lot of tears and begging on his part, and my husband also said he wouldn't go without me. I ended up feeling trapped and like I had no real choice but to go, even though I wasn't really in a good place emotionally. To be clear, my husband is a loving and supportive partner. My reaction came from a place of emotional overload and fear, not blame. I've been actively working on setting boundaries, recovering from people pleasing, and protecting my peace, but sometimes I still struggle to know where that line is. Here's my question. How do you approach events that feel emotionally overwhelming, but you go anyway because the negatives of not going seem to outweigh the positives of staying home? How do you take care of yourself in those situations without feeling like you're abandoning your own needs? This is a great, great question, and a very challenging one. You guys ask good, challenging questions to me. You guys are very thoughtful about your questions. I know it probably already happened, but when you know something is coming and you're kind of dreading it because you know you're going to be triggered, I think there's two different sides to it. One is if you are genuinely not in a place at all that you think you could handle those things, then it is totally okay to just not go. That is always an option. And I also think it's really good to know if you're going to be triggered, make a plan, and then go into that triggering situation. As long as you have a support, or like a support line, or a, what's it called? A lifeline near you. So if you have, like you said, a supportive husband, I'm sure he might know the struggles that you have. If he doesn't, I think that is a really important thing to tell your spouse. You don't have to say anything negative about his mom. You can just say, sometimes I feel like I just get really anxious, and just letting him know where you're at sometimes. And he probably already knows, but it's just important to have a lifeline there with you if you are going into an environment that you know is going to be triggering. Because I'm not a big fan of just like only triggering yourself your whole life, because that's like kind of a miserable way to live. But I also am not a believer, but I also don't think it's good to avoid all triggers. And I think that you already know that, because you have outweighed the cons with the pros and vice versa. So then if you do decide to go, because you're like, okay, I can handle this, and it might not feel good, I might feel like A, B, and C, but I can do this. And you have a lifeline just in case things get too overwhelming and you need to take a step back. So if you have that support, that lifeline going in, then make a very specific game plan. As in, if you are in an environment and she's there, or whoever triggers you is there, and she's saying something that is really actually like manipulative, toxic, is making you feel claustrophobic, whatever the feelings that come up are, I would make a plan that if I start to feel A, B, and C, and maybe these are things that you've already felt before, or you're kind of anticipating, and you're not, and this is not to like assume you're going to feel horrible. It'd be awesome to just be great and you're not triggered at all. But also, if you do know yourself and you know that, there are some things that get under your skin, or there's some things that are actually just not healthy and you don't want to be around that, then that's, that. And so you can plan accordingly to those feelings that come up. Like if you know you're going to feel that if you know that sometimes when you get triggered, especially in like that type of an emotional manipulation area, you can feel trapped, or you can feel helpless, or, anything that's probably going to describe the experience that you could possibly have. Then, the indicator of, okay, if I start to feel like this, then I am going to go on a walk by myself. I'm going to lock myself into the room. If you have a private room, hopefully, I am going to stand up for myself. That's also a great option. Sometimes when people do say certain things, they're not expecting somebody to be like pushing back. But if that's also going to fuel someone and you've learned that pattern, then you're like, okay, so my boundary is to not say anything and just be like, she needs to figure out that by herself. Like, that's not my place, because maybe you've tried and that's what's so exhausting about it. So then you're like, okay, then my boundary is to shut down the conversation and then get out of there, go to the room, go read a book, say you don't feel good, get in the car, take a drive, go to a coffee shop, go get some groceries and reset. And if you are trying to avoid some of your tendencies with people pleasing, then you probably feel guilty if you do set boundaries, or if you do take time for yourself during like a family vacation. And that's normal. I still feel bad sometimes if I need to take a moment to myself. But just remind yourself that you get to enjoy the vacation too. Your kids, your husband will have more fun, and they'll remember this more if you are also in a good headspace and you can also enjoy it. And it's not saying like you have to control how everyone else is doing. It's more so that you deserve to have a good vacation. And just because somebody's there that might trigger you and that might trigger feelings and past things and present things, it doesn't mean that you have to let them control that whole vacation. They might ruin an hour, then you take back the whole other 23 hours in that day. You can be in your own energy. You can be like, I am not going to let that affect me. And even if it does, maybe I'll go in my room and I might have to cry about it. I'll process however I need to, however I want to. And then I can come out of it, and then I can show up for, my husband and my kids. which you already are showing up just by going, because obviously you wanted to spend that time with them. And so that's like what the pro was that you went with. I think that's amazing, because it can be tempting maybe just to run and not have to deal with anything. But it's so empowering to go set the boundary so you're not like actually unsafe, uncomfortable to where it's setting you back, but where you're like, okay, I'm going to go to this. I'm going to be in my own energy. I'm going to protect my peace by having a plan for if I start to feel A, B, or C. And I'm going to kill people with kindness. Easier said than done when someone drives you crazy, but, and you don't, and the thing is, you don't ever have to kill people with kindness. If you wanted to, you could be rude back. I don't know. But I've found that when I'm really trying to be, it's not even about being the bigger person. It's just about being true to myself and being genuine with whatever is happening, with trying to care for the people that I love, then I'm normally just like nicer to people that I don't like. Like, it's just kind of a natural reaction. So I think sometimes being the bigger person is like a weird way of saying it, because it's like, well, that's just like too much pressure. I don't know. When you ground yourself and you're able to check in and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to be such a genuine person today, and I'm going to be honest about my feelings. I'm going to be honest and genuine. Usually that does also bleed onto people that you find absolutely insufferable. Those are my 2 cents. I feel like I've had that with places, not people, where I've been able to go back, and sometimes it's really empowering and it feels so good to go back to a place or something that you used to feel helpless or belittled by, but then you go there and you own your energy, you own your space, and you feel confident and you can walk, upright, and you feel confident. And I think you can do that with people too. And sometimes that is intimidating for them probably. And that's amazing, because that's going to get them all like worked up. Not that that's the goal, but it's bound to happen sometimes if you used to maybe cower and then you go back and you are walking upright. It's a baller move. Okay. Well, I hope that is helpful at all. I'm sorry if it is not. Thank you guys for watching this week's episode of Dear Abby. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. If you guys want to support the podcast, you can do that by leaving a rating review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or just like, comment, or subscribe on YouTube. I post my podcast there as well. But thank you guys for listening. Love you. Bye. 우회전 taking a ride to Todayyy 눈치 보면서 들어가 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람